Howdy, welcome back to my channel and to a video I thought that I would never be doing, which is tackling the entire ACOTAR series. And let me explain. So a few years ago when I was just starting to get back into reading, and I saw this Sarah J Maas book that was getting like way blown up online, and I got it and read like the first 50 pages and I was appalled to say the least. But imagine you haven't read for like quite a while and then you just like jump into a new age fantasy. It can be very much of like a culture shock. So I thought that book was A Court of Thorns and Roses. It turns out that it was actually Crescent City, and I'm sorry if you like that series, but it was just kind of a lot to take in. And it's also YA, which I don't really care for. So I think that's why I had such a visceral reaction to that book. But since then, I have been judging people so hard for liking this series, and now I feel like such a hater. This is definitely your sign to always give authors a second or even third chance, because things that they write can be so different from previous works. But anyway, I was watching one of Daniel Green's videos, and you've probably heard of him. He's like a really big fantasy booktuber, but I'll link his channel down below as well. I really enjoy his stuff. But he was doing this video where he read the first chapter of a book and then the last chapter, and that book happened to be A Court of Thorns and Roses. So I was watching that and he was reading the first chapter and I was like, this does not sound like the bad book that I read. And he finished the chapter and I was like, that was actually really good. Like, what the heck? So I went and found an online version of it and I read like the first 100 pages and I am actually really loving it. So I went and broke the bank a little bit and bought the entire box set. So this weekend I'm going to be trying to make it through the entire series. I don't even know if that's possible because this is a very big book, but I'm all prepared. I got my coffee already. I got some sweatpants on, some fuzzy socks. So I think we are set, and without further ado, let's get back to reading. Kind of forgot I should probably go ahead and open this first. Oh, this is a heavy box set. I expected the books to be like so much smaller, but they are very tall and very heavy. A little ASMR action. Oh my gosh, this is gorgeous. We got a pretty picture on the side. How do I get this out? There we go. This is the first ever box set that I've bought, but I'm really impressed. Oh yeah, it smells so good. Okay, I think I'm on page like 106 or something. So I'm gonna get back to reading this and then I will give you guys an update when I'm about halfway through. Future editing Lynn here. So if you don't want to know any spoilers or anything, or if you just want to know my overall thoughts on the series, skip to whatever time this is and then you'll be good. Okay, so I've made it almost halfway through. I'm on page 199 and I'll give you guys a quick little rundown. I know so many people have already read this, so I don't want to go too in depth, but we've met our main character Farah, who is a human, and she's living in this fae versus human world. And she's basically providing for the entire family and going out and hunting. I don't know what that was. And one day she's out in the woods and on the border she sees a deer and this wolf going after it, and she ends up killing this wolf. And later in the day, this crazy beast lion type animal busts down the door and is like, who killed the Fae wolf? And Farah fesses up. She's like, it was me. The High Fae tells her, according to the treaty, there's kind of like two options. You can either be like killed immediately, you know, a life for a life, or she can come back to like the Fae lands with him and live out the rest of her life there. They journey to the Spring Court, and once they're there, Farah finds out he is actually the High Lord of the Spring Court, which is like as powerful as you can get. And we're slowly figuring out that there's like some type of blight on the land that's causing all these like super scary fairies to show up and wreak havoc. But once she gets there, the High Lord and his friend Lucian are kind of like, you can just chill and live out your days here. She is kind of just living her life and trying to figure out these secrets about what's going on that's causing this blight on the land. The High Lord, whose name is Tamlin, tells her that she can read and paint and do whatever she wants, and it's just so gorgeous in the Spring Court. I'm like, please God, send a High Lord to rescue me from this hellscape. So it's very much reading kind of like a fairy tale right now. So that's where I'm at right now. I'm gonna keep reading this tonight and I will let you guys know how far I get in the morning. Okay, so it's 2:15 in the morning. I don't know why I'm whispering, but I just finished A Court of Thorns and Roses, and you guys, I loved it. It was so much fun, but I'm gonna go to sleep now, and I'm gonna give myself some time to gather my thoughts, and then I'll tell you about it in the morning. Good morning, happy Saturday. So I finished A Court of Thorns and Roses last night. Would this be a reading vlog if I didn't stay up reading until 2 in the morning? Absolutely not. I had such a good time reading this, and I'll go into the plot a little bit. So I love the fact that this supposed blight, which I just like thought was some curse on all the courts, turned out to actually be a person. And that person is of course the super evil Queen Amarantha. And I think that really kind of made this feel like such a fairy tale, because you had, you know, Prince Charming as Tamlin, and then Farah as our princess, and this evil queen with all these magical elements, and I was just so immersed in what felt like a Sleeping Beauty type of fairy tale. Like other people said, the riddle is like so easy, and I guessed what it was going to be like before the riddle even was like mentioned in it. Maybe I've just read and watched like way too many fantasy type books, but the answer always like relates back to the character, and it's always some like overarching theme like patience or love or hate or something like that. So I thought it was a very easy riddle, and I was like, come on Farah, this is like the most basic riddle ever, just say the answer and end all this crap. But she can't figure it out, and she ends up going through all the trials, and they are very gruesome. This got honestly a lot darker than I thought it was gonna get. And I know Ryzen is like the fan favorite, everyone is obsessed with him, so I'm just kind of like waiting for his, you know, character arc in like the next book. I love the ending of this so much. I can see so much potential for the rest of the series in Farah becoming more than human, and seeing how all of that plays out into this new kind of fae being that she's become. I was very impressed by the world building in this. I guess other fantasy romances that I've read have been kind of like the world building part is kind of on the back burner, and then the romance kind of on the forefront. But I thought this was done very well. The world is very complex and well-rounded, and I'm very excited to see where it goes. And I love how Sarah J. Maas, she wraps in things that were mentioned like way earlier, and everything makes sense in the end and it comes together in a very satisfying way. This was such a strong book to start the series off on, and I'm so excited to get into the rest of them. I think I would give this one like a 4.5 stars just because it was a tiny bit predictable, but I definitely loved it. Am I mentally stable enough to throw my heart and soul into this fictional series that I will never be a part of? The answer is definitely not, but we're gonna do it anyway and maybe have a little mental breakdown. We will see how it goes. I've heard that the second book, A Court of Mist and Fury, is like a super fan favorite, so I'm excited to see how that goes. And also, the ending was really weird with like Rysand. Let me find the quote. So in the end, Rysand like turns to look at her, and it says, "Pure shock flashed across his features at whatever he saw in my face and stumbled back a step. Actually stumbled. He disappeared, not a shadow in sight, into the crisp air." And I thought that was a little bit confusing. I'm like, what did he see on her face? And I definitely want to know what all that was about. So let's get started on reading A Court of Mist and Fury. So I made it to page 127, chapter 13, and something major has just happened, but the beginning of the book so far has been very dark. Our characters are really going through it, which I'm glad that they are, because too often in books, like something horrific happens to the characters and then they're just like fine the next day. It's like, okay, a real person is gonna have trauma. And both Tamlin and Farah both have like a lot of issues going on, and they're not talking about them at all, but like Farah keeps like waking up in the middle of the night, like throwing up, and she's just kind of like withering away. It's not good. So even though Farah and Tamlin are like clearly mentally suffering, they're still proceeding with this wedding. And on the wedding day, Farah's walking down the aisle and she's like, please, I don't want to do this. This doesn't feel right. And who other than Ryzen shows up to whisk her away as part of their deal that they agreed on under the mountain. So she has to spend a week with him every month, and she does that a couple times, and she actually realizes that she has way more freedom at the night court than she does with Tamlin, because Tamlin lately is being a royal jerk literally and metaphorically, and like refuses to let her do anything. Like he's super protective, and I'm like, okay, she literally just saved your ass and you did nothing but sat on your butt. So I think that she can take care of herself. But it kind of like all leads up to this crescendo where he locks her in the house and like won't let her out, and she has like major PTSD from being under the mountain and just like explodes with like power and rage. And Ryzen sends like his third in charge to come get her, and they whisk her away to the night court. And that's where I'm at right now. So things are getting very crazy. I am a little bit sad about Tamlin because I loved him so much in the first book, but I just don't think he's the right fit for our main character, Farah. Also, I am loving Farah's character so much. I think she's so well written, and she also has flaws and all these mental struggles. And I think Sarah J. Maas just did a really good job at developing our main character. So I'm gonna keep reading this, and I've realized I like calculated up how many hours it would take to like read each book. I don't think it's physically possible for me to do it in one weekend, so this might be extended into a couple more days, just depending how quickly I can get through them. So let's get back to it. I've made it to page 267, chapter 26, and a lot is happening. So war is like on the horizon. Also, sorry if the audio is really bad. The crickets and locusts are like screaming in the woods right now, and I don't want to go get my microphone. So war between like the Seven Courts and the continent that originally did not want to free the humans is like on the horizon. So Ryzen and his inner circle are doing everything they can to prepare for a war with Highburn. So while all that's going on, Farah is continuing to train and actually learning how to harness her powers, whereas Tamlin did not want her to use her powers. It would like make her more dangerous. And Farah and Ryzen have this like enemy to lovers type thing going on where they kind of just like have this banter, but they still are like flirting with each other. And Farah's like, why is he kind of cute? So I'm having a good time so far. I'm also really excited to see what kind of powers Farah has because she got a little bit of magic from each of the Seven Courts whenever they revived her. It's gonna be so cool to see how that plays out. Also, Tamlin is like nowhere to be found. I'm like, Farah, where's your man? Like he hasn't even sent a note or answered her note or anything. I'm like, what is going on over there? Like, do not even care. But he's just been like MIA for 100 pages. So we'll see if he makes an appearance anytime soon. I'm gonna take a break and get something to eat. I've been reading for like 4 hours straight and my eyes are starting to hurt. Okay, I teared up a little bit, but a tear never fell, so you can't say this made me cry. But I've made it quite a bit further to page 495. A lot of things have happened romantically between Farah and Ryzen. I was watching a couple videos, and in one video they were calling him Resend? Like Recess? And then another video was calling him Raysend, like Ray. And I'm like, I've just been like saying Rise in my head. So I'm sticking with Ryzen, but apparently in this world, they have a thing that's kind of like imprinting like in Twilight, but in this, it's like you immediately know who your mate is gonna be. Farah has just found out that Ryzen is her mate. He's like explaining his side of everything, and it's just like breaking my heart. Does a love like this exist in the real world? Probably not. That's what I hate about fiction. I'm like, why can't it be real? But remember back like way earlier when I was like, why did Ryzen act weird and like stumble back when he like looked at her? And then he explains it in here. It's like every single detail, like Sarah J. Maas does like a callback and we see it again. He explains every single interaction that they've had and his side of stuff and how he knew he loved her like a year ago. And I'm like, oh my gosh, it's just, it's too much for me to take. But listen to this. Okay. Farah's like, when did you know I was your mate? And Ryzen says, I suspected for a while. I knew for certain when Amarantha was killing you and when we stood on the balcony under the mountain right after we were freed. I felt it snap into place between us. I think when you were made, it heightened the smell of the bond. I looked at you then and the strength of it hit me like a blow. He'd gone wide-eyed, had stumbled back as if shocked, terrified, and had vanished. And I was like, ugh. Like all those little tiny details end up showing back up in every single moment. It's just so crazy to see his side of things. But also Farah's like really pissed at him for not telling her. So she kind of ran away and she's like hiding in the cabin, like on a mountaintop in painting as she should. So now we know why things never really clicked with Tamlin, and he's gonna have a rude awakening when he finds out that they're mated. I have about 100 pages on this one, so hopefully I can finish this up soon and then get started on the next book. I think it's called A Court of Wings and Ruin, and then I'll give you guys my final thoughts on this. I'm on chapter 51, and apparently chapter 55 is like super spicy and everyone freaks out about it online. So we'll see if it's worth the hype when I get there. Okay, chapter 55 was indeed spicy, but I just finished up A Court of Mist and Fury, and that ending was like so confusing. So Tamlin showed back up finally at the end with Lucian. My entire Instagram For You page has just been like ACOTAR memes and stuff, and people that hate Tamlin call him Tampon, and that's just like the funniest thing. But anyway, he shows back up, made a deal with the King of Highburn, like their enemy that they're gonna be going to war with that wants to like kill all of the humans. I'm like, why would Tamlin do that when like Amarantha came from his court and they made his life a living hell, like during the war, after the war, like every problem has been caused by this guy, yet he makes a deal with them just to get Farah back. And then also the human queens show up and they like turn on the Night Court and Farah and Rysand. And I guess it's because the King of Highburn has been like telling everyone these lies, how he like wants to make peace between humans and the Fae world, and they're just buying it so easily. One of like my biggest predictions, because during like all the like spicy scenes and stuff, they talk about birth control and Farah's like, I need to drink the tonic or bounce on the toadstool or whatever it is. Like birth control in fantasies is just like always the most ridiculous crap you can think of. But she was supposed to take this tonic and then like the war and everything started happening and they were attacked and she never took it. So I thought for sure like the last page was gonna be her finding out that she was pregnant. So I was like very surprised that did not happen. Maybe it's gonna happen in the next book. So right now, even though Tampon has whisked away Farah to the Spring Court again and she's like pretending to love him, and I'm like, man, y'all, this man is so broken. Even though all that's happened, we find out that Farah is actually High Lady of the Night Court, which is crazy. And I'm very satisfied with where her and Rysand's relationship is at, because I feel like it's gotten like closure. Like they finally expressed their feelings for each other. They know where they stand. And even though they're separated, it feels like all is right in the world. Overall, I think this was definitely a lot stronger of a book than A Court of Thorns and Roses. I didn't feel like in the first book, I even really knew Tamlin that well, whereas Rysand's character was so much more developed and emotional, and we just got to see a lot more sides of him. It's getting pretty late now, it's like 9 o'clock, but I'm gonna try to start the next book and hopefully get a decent amount into it. So I'll probably be back with an update tomorrow morning. Happy Sunday. So I actually made it quite a ways in A Court of Wings and Ruin. I'm on page 189, I think. It's like so easy to get through these and binge read them so quickly. So we pick up from the ending of the last book, and Farah is kind of like playing a spy in the Spring Court, and there is nothing that I love more than pissed off Farah. She is so much fun when she's pissed off. So she is absolutely terrorizing the Spring Court, but like so subtly, and she's using her like mind control abilities to just snake into everybody's mind and cause all kinds of chaos. And from the beginning, she was being like really close with Lucian and like kept putting herself in situations with him, and I'm like, is she kind of being like flirty with him? Like, are they gonna be a thing? And then she eventually fessed up to like trying to get Tamlin to be jealous of her and Lucian and like causing some like friendship rivalry between them. And I'm like, Farah, you dirty dog. And in the last book, we found out that Lucian is mated to Farah's sister Elaine, which is a crazy coincidence. And then I'm pretty sure Cassian and her sister Nesta are like kind of mates too. They kind of have that vibe going on. But like, how crazy of a coincidence would that be if like all three sisters are mated to like all three of the Illyrian warriors? Is it a crazy coincidence or is it fate? Whenever Farah runs away again and she hears Tamlin like roaring through the woods, I feel so bad for him. Like the poor guy, he's kind of just seems like a meathead dude and he just doesn't know how to love. He's trying his best, kind of, but I feel so bad for him. Farah's sister, Nesta, is growing on me so much. She's so cold and calculating, and everything she says is just so harsh. But I'm like, hey, at least she's embracing it. I just wish she would be nicer to Cassian. Like, geez, girl. Okay, I've been drinking those Celsius energy drinks, and my eyes are like twitching all day long. Like, I don't know if you can see this one. Okay, yeah, if you look closely. That's my sign to stop. The mosquitoes out here are so bad. It is kind of crazy how everyone is just being turned immortal and being raised from the dead. I'm like, usually in magic systems, like raising someone from the dead is like crazy impossible and has all these consequences, and turning someone immortal is like impossible. So it's kind of crazy that Farah and all of her sisters have just been made into these high faes. I do like the fact that like since they've been made, they have all of these abilities and quirky little things that are different from just like faes that are just like born high fae. So I do think it's really cool. Like Farah's sisters are probably gonna have some weird abilities like relating back to the cauldron that turn them immortal. So hopefully we'll see something like that come up soon. But I think I'm gonna be able to get through this today. It is really big. It's like 700 pages. but it's just so easy to get through these so fast. So I'm gonna keep reading and then I'll check back in when I have some more thoughts. Well, I was going to try to film an update out here, but it's so loud. The same garbage truck has passed like 5 times for some reason. But look what just got here. I got some pumpkin earrings. They're so cute and they were like $3. And then I'm also wearing a Christmas shirt while it's like 85 degrees outside. So we just got all the seasons going on today. So I've made it quite a bit further in this. I'm on chapter 53, page 495. I'm gonna try to talk about this. Hopefully it doesn't get too loud outside again, but we'll see. I have been bored like since Farah got back from like messing with Tamlin, and by the way, she like destroyed the entire spring court, which is kind of what he gets, you know, for making a deal with the devil, aka Hybern. But he's also like over 500 years old. It's like, come on, dude, you should know a little bit better, have a little bit more strategy after that long. For the past like 200 pages, they've been like preparing for this war with Hybern. Yes, like stuff is happening. I guess I'm just like impatient, and it's been like rising action for like the past 1,000 pages in this series, because the last book, Mist and Fury, that was all like leading up to this war with Hybern too. And the past, you know, almost 500 pages have all been leading up to this war. And I'm like, I'm just getting a little bit bored. Like, let's get this stuff going, you know? But that could also be because I've read like 2,000 pages this weekend. So maybe I just need to take a little break. I have like 150 pages or so left. So I'm gonna try to push through this and finish it tonight. I don't know why I'm so bored. I'm also kind of worried because the next book, A Court of Starlight and something, it's like really little, but the book after that, A Court of Silver Flames, it's like massive. Like, I'm pretty sure it's over 1,000 pages. So if it drags along, like, I feel like it'll take me a long time to get through it. Maybe I just need some caffeine in my system and I'll get more excited and, you know, ready to push through this. But the first 2 books were definitely like so strong. Like, I read through those so fast. So maybe I'm just, you know, feeling the Sunday scaries a little bit. I will be back with an update once I finish this, probably later tonight, hopefully. It's so exciting. The leaves are already starting to change colors. So it's quite a bit later, but I finally finished A Court of Wings and Ruin. The last 100 pages definitely had a lot of action packed into it, and I think it was worth like trudging through the couple hundred pages that I thought were pretty boring. There was kind of like a lot of world building and setup for the ending, like the final battle, like in the middle of the book. They were kind of doing all their political stuff and getting all these different people to fight for them, different armies and things like that. So seeing them come together in the end and all of those different factors coming together in order to beat Hybern's army was very satisfying to see. I also liked a few of the different little twists, like Tamlin kind of playing double agent and coming back to help them, saving Farah's behind, and kind of redeeming himself in the end. Oh, also what really got me, I think I shed like a singular tear over this, was when Farah and her sister's dad showed up with like a full army. I was like, that really got me, but that might just be like my own personal issues as to why that like struck me so much. But I thought that scene was so good. I could just like see it playing like a movie in my mind. I loved it. But I do have a few little peccadillos, I guess you could say, about this. The biggest problem I have is that there's like no definitive line between like life and death in so many of the scenarios in these books. Like, there have been so many times, well, not so many, but several times when someone has died and they've just been like brought back to life. And it really takes away from like the seriousness of the fight scenes, and where I would normally be on the edge of my seat, I'm like, doesn't matter if someone dies, you know, they're just gonna get brought back to life, or at least they could be. So bringing people back to life, especially without like consequences, just seems kind of like a very weird route to go for me. We'll see if it's done in the next 2 books, but like hopefully not, because it's getting a little bit predictable. Like, I'm not worried about the main characters anymore because they're not actually gonna die. Watch me be wrong and like be heartbroken in the next book. But yeah, that's just kind of one major issue I had. And also I think that like 200 pages could have been cut out of this and it still would have had the same effect, because this was a thick one. This was like exactly 700 pages, which is, ugh, my brain cannot read anymore today. So the first 2 books I think were like a solid 4.5 and a 5 star, but this one kind of dropped a little bit lower, maybe to like a 3.5 star. The next one up is A Court of Frost and Starlight, and look how tiny little it is. It's just like such a cute little baby compared to the other books. I don't think a lot is supposed to happen in this book. I think it's just kind of like a break between the third and fifth book, I guess, if you include this one. So I'm gonna start on this one next. I'm not sure if it'll be tonight. Maybe I'll try to find the audiobook on YouTube. Speaking of which, there is a girl, I'll link them down below, that does the best like reading of these books. It is so dramatic. There's like background music. It is seriously so good. It feels like I'm watching a movie. So I will be back after I finish this because it's so small. I don't really want to do like a bunch of breakdowns. I will see you guys probably tomorrow. Hello, happy Monday. Yeah, Monday. So I did end up getting a little bit into this last night and then I finished it this morning. It didn't take too long to read, like 3 hours, a little bit less. So I consider it a pretty quick read. So I was looking at the ratings and reviews on this because I was just like, I wonder what other people think about this being like a half book, you know, in between the third and fourth. And this kind of got roasted in the reviews and stuff. Like people did not like this. I actually kind of enjoyed it. It was just kind of like the in-between time and the first winter solstice after like the huge war that happened. And it just kind of feels like you're spending Christmas Eve with Farah and like her family, Ryzen and all them. And it's cozy and I think it's really cute. I don't know why people hated it so much. But also it's like, okay, so you're fine with like 200 pages of just like nothing happening in like the last book, but then this 200 pages of just like cute, wholesome moments you don't like? Come on now. But this also concluded with Farah and Ryzen saying that they wanted to have a baby. And I am so surprised that she hasn't gotten pregnant yet because I could have sworn that she was going to have some weird like pregnancy trope. I honestly thought something weird was going to happen where she was with Tamlin and then during that time she found out she was pregnant. I don't know. But that definitely didn't happen. I think it's going to happen like surely in A Court of Silver Flames. I'm excited to see where that goes. I'm definitely going to be listening to a lot of the audiobook for that one because ACOTAR is melting my brain in a good way, I think. So I'm going to get into that one and I'll let you guys know what I think. Okay, this book has a really nice updated map. Oh, it's only almost 800 pages, not 1,000. I do love like the huge contrast between Nesta and Farah. I think it's really interesting to see just how different sisters can be and like their different personalities, especially from like her point of view. I'm gonna continue on in this. I have pretty much the rest of the day free, so we'll see if I can make it through 800 pages. Okay, so I've made it to chapter 18. Nesta and Cassian are like using each other to like avoid dealing with their trauma, it feels like. But it is a little sad that Nesta has like destroyed every relationship that she's had, or at least she's trying to. And everyone just keeps trying to help her, but she is not having it. Her and Cassian are like so different, but also similar in the ways that they both have like such a temper. I am sad though, because it is just focused on Nesta and I miss like all of our other characters. Like, I feel like I haven't like seen anything from Farah and Ryzen and like Moore is just gone from this book, it seems like. And then Azrael like appears sometimes. I don't know, I guess this book is just gonna be focused on Nesta and Cassian and then there will be like future ones that deal with all the trauma the other characters have. I think I'm about to get to the point where they might actually talk about their feelings, hopefully, and deal with some of this stuff instead of just like taking it out in training. So we will see if that happens. I love the fact that Nesta loves like reading romance books and they're like talking about how there's smut in them and stuff. And I'm like, yeah, look at us reading this smut. So that's funny. And also the house has like become this like sentient being and it's like rewarding her with romance novels and like cake, which is like such a cute thing. I can't stop sneezing. I made it to chapter 37 and oh my goodness. There was just straight up, let me see, like 11 full pages of just pure smut. It was kind of like extremely graphic, I felt like. Like this was not like the different scenes in A Court of Thorns and Roses and A Court of Mist and Fury. Like this was kind of crazy. Sarah J. Maas, what are you doing? I honestly did not like that scene. Like, I don't know how to feel. The other smutty scenes in like the previous book, they kind of felt like they were necessary like in developing the relationship between the two different people. And I don't know how much this like smutty scene helped provide like character. Bro, What are you doing? I don't know how much this scene added to their relationship development. Maybe this was just like an extremely graphic like one-off, but I have a feeling that it's just gonna keep getting more smutty. So I guess we'll see how that goes. Ew. So we made it a whole 3 chapters before another extremely graphic smut scene. I don't know, it's just like the language in this book, like describing the intimate scenes between characters, is so different than like the previous books. Like this is, I don't know, I just feel like it's so gross. Like, oh. Oh, also, I'm kind of pissed because Izzy's here, by the way. It's like we miss out on all of the best moments between Farrah and Ryzen. Like we missed out on their like little marriage ceremony, like they announced it to the group later, and it's like, okay, we would have liked to see that. And then now Farrah announces that she's pregnant. Are you kidding me? Like that's a scene that we 100% would have wanted to see between Ryzen and Farrah. It was probably like the most wholesome moment ever, like her telling him that she was pregnant. And we don't get to see that either. It's like, come on, we want to see these extremely important moments between, you know, our 2 favorite characters. But also Ryzen is being like really weird in this book, and we're only getting to see kind of like more negative sides of him, which is weird. I don't know, I'm getting the ick, like major ick. And also Farrah just found out via Nesta that she is most likely gonna die during childbirth because like the baby is gonna have wings, which kind of doesn't really make sense to me because she can shapeshift, but then they're saying like, oh, you can't shapeshift with a baby, and I'm like, why? Like she can do it so easily, and I don't know, it just seems a little weird that they can do all this crazy stuff, come back from death and transform into like a lion, all this insane stuff, yet she can't have a baby that has wings even though she can have wings. I don't know, it's just like a weird thing. It kind of seems like that's what it's like leading up to, is gonna be like Farrah giving birth. I guess we'll see how that goes. I swear, I know exactly where this is going. Of course. Okay, is death a joke to you, Sarah J. Maas? I swear. Okay, so Farrah's having the baby. We know she's not actually gonna die because that could not happen. So then Nesta like makes a deal with the cauldron and becomes death herself, saves Farrah, the baby, and Ryzen, and like they're all perfectly healthy now. And I'm like, who could have guessed that they wouldn't have died? It's just so predictable at this point. Okay, let me finish like the last chapter real quick. We're finally finished. I don't know what to think about this. I thought it was funny because it's like Cassian and Nesta were like finally gonna admit that they were mates, and then Nesta was like, psych! I'm not saying anything. But then finally, like at the very end, they admit to each other that they're mates, and it's like, y'all, we've known this 2 books ago. It felt like the whole like blood right thing with the girls training and defeating all the other Illyrian warriors and stuff, that seemed kind of like a subplot. And then also all the stuff with the queen was going on. And I still don't quite understand how she was able to become like so powerful so quickly. There's still so many like unresolved things. Like Moore showed up for like 5 minutes in this, and we still need to get her and Eris's story. So that's definitely going to be a whole nother book. And then Asriel and Gwen is definitely going to be a whole nother book. And then what about Lucian and Elaine? That's going to be another book. So there are seriously going to be at least 3 more books. But also Tamlin. What about Tamlin? That's 4. It's never ending. I did not like this book, unfortunately. Like maybe that's just because I'm like extremely burnt out. I've read this entire series in like 4.5 days now. I think at the end I was just like skimming through this. And this world just keeps getting bigger and bigger with like all the stuff happening on like the different continent, and it's just set up to be like a never-ending book series. And how many pages do we already have? Like 3,000? I have a bunch of like homework and a couple quizzes I have to take tonight, so I think I'm gonna do that, and then I'm gonna gather my thoughts and I'll give you all like a full rundown on what I think about the entire series, probably tomorrow morning. So I will see you then. Hello, we are gathered here today to discuss 5 crimes that have been committed against me. I'm just kidding. So let's get down and dirty. My brain is just so done after this. Okay, let's start with the first book, A Court of Thorns and Roses. So this was a great book to start the series with. I had so much fun reading it. I really loved the characters and the plot, and also the world building and the world setup. It was just such a fun world to be a part of. And then also there was so much left that we didn't know about, and I think it did a really good job of setting up the next book. Overall, I think I would give this a strong 4, maybe like a 4.5 out of 5 stars. I had a great time reading it. After that, we had A Court of Mist and Fury, and this was so good, you all. This was very heavy on like the romance side of things, but I think it was done very well. This book really got me into the whole ACOTAR memes and stuff on Instagram. Oh my gosh, guys, the fan art for these books is like stunning. I'll show you a little bit that I saved on my Instagram, but man, I was kind of like really obsessed after this book. Oh, and I would give this a 5 out of 5 stars. I really enjoyed it. And next we had A Court of Wings and Ruin. This one is kind of where it started going a little bit downhill for me. I just thought it dragged on entirely too long, and I was just kind of over it by page like 300. The ending was really good, but man, I just felt so worn down after like 400 pages of like setup. I think the other day I said like a 3.5 star, and I would say, yeah, like a solid 3 stars. Like, I had a decent time. I was just kind of annoyed a little bit. And then next we had A Court of Frost and Starlight. I really enjoyed this one. I thought it was really cute, and it felt good to have a break from all the heavy plot stuff and just get some wholesome like Christmas time vibes from all of our different characters. So I would give this one like a 4 out of 5 stars. It's not really essential to like the whole overall plot, but I really enjoyed all of the wholesome moments we got to see. Next up, I did not like this at all. Like, the plot elements were good. The smut in this was on just like a whole nother level. This just left like a bad taste in my mouth. I honestly don't know if I'm going to continue with this series after this, unless I just like hear really good things about the next book. This brings the whole series down. Like, maybe I'm just like extremely burnt out. I would honestly give this like a 2 out of 5 stars. I felt like Rysand and Farrah's characters were kind of crapped on a little bit. And I know like every different couple has a different type of relationship, but man, Nessa and Cassian's was just like so over the top, aggressive. I don't know, I just didn't like it. Also, there is still so much that we don't know about. And I swear, there's gonna be like 15 more books after this. The beginning of this series was definitely the best. Maybe like my interest and the newness with this Fae world kind of just got worn out. I don't know. I'm glad I read the series so I know what everybody is, you know, going on about. I can't believe A Court of Silver Flames is still rated so highly. I thought people would have like roasted this into oblivion. So that wraps up my ACOTAR reading series. This drained me. Definitely let me know if you've read this and what your thoughts on it were. I think that is going to wrap up this video, and I will see you all in the next one. Thanks so much for watching, and subscribe if you want to. Okay, bye guys.